Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I am here with Jason.
Hey, everybody.
What's up?
You know, hanging in there.
We're a little snappy on the intro this time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then we suddenly derail.
Yes, immediately. We are continuing our chronicle on movies about making movies. Started strong last time with a little Shion Sono for the year.
Yes.
Following it up with some Brian De Palma.
Finally.
Covering his film Blowout from 1981, which was a first-time watch. It was one of those ones I was holding in the pocket to say I still had another Brian De Palma film to watch. Mm-hmm. So cool to scratch that off.
I'm anxious to see what you thought, my friend.
We'll get into all of that in the wonderful world of audio engineering.
Mm-hmm.
But first, we're going to do all our usual stuff. We're going to talk about what we've been watching. I think we have some big movie-type things to talk about that have come out recently.
Yes.
And I got a shout-out.
Shout it out loud.
You may not be aware of this because it almost slipped my radar because I haven't been able to keep tabs on the socials as much. But you, my friend, had another one of your guest spots on the Jacked Up Review Show.
Oh my gosh.
Dropped out there.
Oh, awesome.
It's one of the shows that we love to go and guest on whenever we have a chance to.
Yes.
Unfortunately, this year we haven't been able to do it quite as much as we wanted. 2023 has kind of kicked our ass.
This year has sucked.
Yeah, all across the year. But yeah, it was the one where you guys are talking about David Cronenberg and his films.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome.
So I'll throw the link to that in the show notes. Be sure to go check that out. Show lots of love to Cam. He's awesome.
Yeah.
His show's great. They cover like just literally everything, basically.
Oh yeah, that was a fun show too. That was a good talk.
It was such a wide range of stuff. So go check that out. Go show him some love. But otherwise, I want to get right into the meat of this.
Let's do it.
What have you been watching?
I have a couple of movies to talk about.
Oh damn!
Because it's been a little while since we recorded. Mm-hmm. So I went to go see Eli Roth's new film, Thanksgiving.
Ah, the realization of the Grindhouse trailer, correct? Yeah.
Yes. There's good and there's bad. Mm-hmm. The bad is that it's not the trailer. You know, it's not that movie.
Right. Well, you could tell that from the trailer. It was not going to be.
Yeah. Which is fine because I am a little tired of the whole retro 80s thing to make it look like it's a lost movie or some shit like that. It's a little done.
Sure.
But my God, that movie looked fun in that trailer, you know.
And John Carver, that's such a good like slasher villain.
It is. He has a cool look, the pilgrim's hat and everything. It's like a serial killer, Solomon Kane or something. And it's a fun movie. The one we got, it's very traditional. It's very typical. Mm-hmm. It's very much a slasher film with all the good and all the bad. It has a good kills. It has some funny parts. Eli Roth. There's always some fun little side characters and bits. But also, like a lot of Eli Roth's movies, his leads kind of leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah. They
are very much the interchangeable generic teenagers. Well, 20-somethings playing teenagers. And, I mean, they all do fine. Everyone acquits themselves just fine. But it's just, there's not really any characters you can root for or you like.
So pretty standard slasher fare type stuff.
Right.
Okay.
But it is fun. It is worth watching. It's definitely one of the better slashers I've seen in a while. You know, it's no Terrifier, but, you know, it's fun.
Cool.
You could do a lot worse.
I'll probably circle back for it then.
Yeah.
I got a comment and a question. So, comment. This is what I'm going to say about Eli Roth. He's made some stinkers. He's made some great films.
He has.
But I feel like across the board, they're always at least like watchable.
Yeah, they're always interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the ones that aren't so successful. There's something about them.
You know, sometimes you get your Green Infernos, but then other times you get your Knock Knocks. So.
Yeah. You know what? I have not seen Knock Knock.
Listen, man, it's free pizza. If it showed up at your door and it was free pizza, wouldn't you take it?
Absolutely, I would.
Go watch Knock Knock and let's talk about that again.
I need to watch it. I do, and it's like streaming free. I think it's on one of my queues in Tubi or Plex or something.
It's funny because it's like a remake of a ridiculous 70s film, but it manages to be like just as ridiculous, but in a different way.
Nice. My
question is, so I noticed in the trailer they seem to kind of like redo some of the bits from the original Grindhouse trailer.
Yes.
And this is a spoiler, so skip ahead if you care about this at all. I don't. I just want to know. Does he like bake the mom like in the original Grindhouse trailer?
Okay, for those of you who don't want to know out there and haven't seen the movie, go ahead and skip ahead a minute or so. Yes.
Oh,
surprisingly.
Okay, my hat's off to him then.
Yeah, that was one of the cool things they keep.
I was worried they would punk out of that.
Yeah. And they have a play on the trampoline scene. It's not quite as fun as it was in the trailer because apparently these days we can't have nudity in movies. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know who decreed this.
Hollywood,
I don't know what
guess.
the big deal is. I think a lot of audiences don't like nudity anymore. You know what I heard one like film theory was?
Okay.
Is that we don't have the consent of the characters to watch them having sex.
Okay, they're characters. I hate
Isn't that the
argument.
most fucking ridiculous thing you've ever heard in your fucking life? We don't have consent to watch anything in their life. You know what? They're not fucking real. That's the point.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. The actors consent to the scenes. Man.
Whew.
I know. Things are getting ridiculous, man. They're getting fucking ridiculous.
Okay, well, what else have you been watching?
Okay. Last night, I went to go see Godzilla -1.
Bum, 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 bum.
Exactly.
Yo.
You haven't seen it yet, right?
I'm probably going to see it tomorrow-ish.
I will avoid all spoilers.
Okay.
But I will say that this is definitely one of the best Godzilla movies ever made.
That's pretty much what everyone's been saying, so yeah.
It may be the best Godzilla movie ever made. It's different, but it's a good different. It's kind of like how Shin Godzilla was different and its own little thing.
Yeah.
This is too. And yeah, it's kind of another retelling of the original Godzilla monster, but it's done so well. And you actually care about the human drama in this one. And that's always one of the weak points of almost any Godzilla movie.
Well, that's where the MonsterVerse has just completely shat the bed, because...
They have. I don't give a shit about any of those characters. No, I liked Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, until they kill him.
As soon as he died, I got so bored. I was like, oh shit, the only good character's gone. I'm stuck with these fuckers.
I don't know how you're not doing the screen test and you're like, wait, no, this dude's the movie.
Yeah.
Not his son.
Right. Anyway, but yeah, great. I mean, this works without Godzilla.
Well, there you go.
But the Godzilla stuff is awesome. He's probably never looked better in a period. You know, I do like the new Godzilla, the American Godzilla, but
He's all right.
he kind of lacks a personality. But this dude has a personality. This Godzilla, he's pretty vicious. There's a few callbacks to some of the earlier movies.
I've heard there's some like scene, like they kind of recreate the same sort of like scene, like shot for shot a little bit.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really good.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, I think you'll dig it. So anyone out there, even if you're not like a big Godzilla fan, and this is a good time to jump on board because you do not need to see any of the other movies for this. It's probably good if you haven't. So go check it out. What have you been watching, dude?
Cool. I have a tale of two animated experiences.
Oh.
One negative, one positive. So I guess we'll get the sticky one out of the way.
Yeah, let's do that.
Talking about some Netflix stuff. In the gap since the last time we recorded, the Scott Pilgrim anime series has dropped. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Where are you in the world of Scott Pilgrim? Are you?
I'd never read the comic, but I really like the movie, the live action film.
Cool. So I was like diehard obsessed with the comic. I like the movie. I think it's like, I mean, it's what you expect if you take a thing that was like 6 graphic novels and then try to squeeze it down into a film.
Right.
Like the first half's like really great, and then the second half's kind of shaky. And then you get into all the stuff of like what he wanted to do, and then the studio made him switch it. I'm kind of like, I kind of want that movie that he was going to do, but whatever.
Right.
And then there's the video game, which is excellent. I know you're not a big gamer over there, but it's very much like a classic like side-scroller, beat-em-up, like River City Ransom type deal.
See, I like those. That's old school.
And it managed to be like very faithful to the comics and also give you some like fun what-ifs. Because depending on who you're playing as, they kind of change the ending.
Can you play as Knives?
You can, yeah. She was DLC, but I think now when they've re-released it, she's just like packed in there.
Because she is the best character. We all know this.
Consistently is. And I'm about to just shit all over this show. So the one thing I will say is that, again, Knives is like one of the best parts in there. So that remains true in all universes. So this anime, kind of like the perfect storm of things. I'll set it up first. So we've got Science Saru, Japanese studio, animating it. They're super popular, super hot these days. They've done all kinds of other shows that are really cool. We've got Brian Lee O'Malley, the original creator of the comic. He's on board with the story and the writing.
Okay.
They got back the entire cast, except I think maybe like one person or so from the film. Anyone that mattered is back in to voice their characters.
That's cool.
They brought back Anna Monoguchi, the like punk rocky chiptune band that did the soundtrack for the video game. They did the score.
Okay.
So you just, yeah.
Sounds like everything's
a
good.
perfect storm of everything you want it to be. And if you've watched any of the trailers, it looked like it was just literally like we took the comic and like tore it off the page into some awesome, like really stylish animation.
I'm guessing that's not the case.
That is not the case. It is like this super weird, like its own story, but also maybe kind of a sequel that, I don't even know how to begin to talk about this. First of all, I fucking hate this. It's just like really awful. But, so the premise is like episode 1, it's like 1-to-1 with the comic, right? Mm-hmm. And it builds up. That's everything that happens. Like, oh, he's dating Knives. He's not really into her. That's just a whatever thing. He finds Ramona, obsesses over Ramona. Though there's all these evil exes. You got to beat them all. Boom, boom, boom. If you know Scott Pilgrim, you know the hook of that. That's right. Boom. There we go. So it all builds up to like the first encounter with the first evil ex, which is Matthew Patel. Mm-hmm. And they have the big fight in the like nightclub where the bands are playing.
Right.
And it gets to that moment, and then in like this freak twist, Matthew Patel defeats Scott, and he like bursts into a coin and vanishes. So then it's like, oh shit, what's happened? And then the rest of the show is about like Ramona and going forward from that point. And it's just like, I'm sorry to be so mean about this. It's just like real shitty fan fiction.
Wow.
That someone made. And I know I've noticed that the creator has been very vocal about like his involvement, like he's trying to like stymie that argument. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, dude, like it's just bad.
No.
So like a lot of the characters that you would think about that kind of matter a lot, like his bandmates, like Steven and Kim, mm-hmm. or like his roommate Wallace, mm-hmm. They don't matter as much anymore because Scott's not there. So they're in it, but they're no longer the focus because they're not his like immediate circle.
Okay.
So instead it becomes more about like the evil exes themselves. And they go on this thing of like redeeming each one. And instead of defeating them, they get them to give up their like grudge against Ramona and just be friends with everybody.
That sounds lame.
And that's why I say fanficky, because it's very much one of those things like, oh, what if like...
nobody fought and they all
like well, nobody fought, and like what if like Matthew Patel was hanging out with this guy, and then like Scott, instead of being like super evil and like overusing his vegan powers, like he chilled out and turned out to be gay, and then like what if this happened, and like what if this, and it goes in really weird directions.
What if Scott Pilgrim but different, completely different?
What if we just deleted him and then just focused on like our favorite characters that we like and made them be everything? And I'm totally going to spoil this show, so just tune out if you actually care, but I'm just going to say it's not worth your time, so think of that what you will. But as it goes, it gets into all these weird directions of like, there's no direction for Knives now, right? Because everything of her development comes off of like...
She's obsessed over Scott.
She's obsessed over Scott, and then she's dejected, and then she kind of eventually comes into her own person, and that's like her growth.
Right.
But you don't get that now, so... She becomes like buddies with Steven, and they start a band and get into music, and they want to make like a Scott Pilgrim musical to like memorialize him. And it's more like weird like fanfic wankery where it's like, what if we had like a musical version of all the events of Scott Pilgrim?
Well, there's already so much music in the live action film anyway.
So then late series, it's like 8 episodes, so you get into the back half. Then they start doing the like, I'm sorry I didn't make this reference, Jason, but they pull The Last Jedi where they're like, oh, we're going to radically subvert everything about Scott Pilgrim that exists and blow your fucking mind. Mm-hmm. So then it's like, Scott's not dead. He's in another universe. He's been like whisked away by some evil person. And then the evil person turns out to be an older version of Scott Pilgrim that is maybe the Scott Pilgrim from the comics or maybe not. It depends on how you want to get into the vast multiverse of Scott Pilgrim that they open up to you.
Oh, God.
Where the show is one version and the movie is one version.
I'm just going to say, I'm fucking tired of multiverses.
Oh, I'm so fucking sick of it,
stop it, man. Jesus Christ.
And so this older Scott, he was the one that like got with Ramona, but then he never changed his ways totally, and so they ended up breaking up, and he became like dejected, and then he became an evil ex. And so he was like abducting himself from another universe to like fuck with the reality of everything, and it's so dumb. And then they bring in like the older Ramona that's from that universe, and da-da-da, and it's a bunch of fighting, and then at the end they get their Scott back, and he kind of still gets with Ramona, and everyone's like happy and everything's good. But it lacks all the nuance of like why the comics were so cool to people, of like, here's these two shitty people, and they've been through some shit, but they're also like shitty to everyone. and they want to be together. And in the course of doing that, they both kind of like work through their shit and become better people at the end. And this just kind of deletes all of that and then just does like a few hours of random antics with characters. And then they're just like, okay, everything's cool now.
Oh.
Royally pissed me off. I almost canceled Netflix over it. Yeah, I have nothing but bad things to say about it. So
Wow. Okay. All right.
I gave it a 0.5 star on Letterboxd.
Damn.
It's the worst I could give it, I guess. So yeah.
Well, you all heard it from here. It
Only
sucks.
bad things. If you liked it, you're wrong. Fucking fight me. Let's go.
Well, what's the reaction to it that most fans are having that you can tell?
So I've seen people that have liked it because they're like, oh, you should just take it as its own thing. Which I can respect that, but also like they advertised it as an adaptation. Like if you watch any of the trailers, it's like scene for scene.
That's not an adaptation.
And all of that is just the first chunk of the first episode to like misdirect you. And that's the thing is like the comics have never had a full adaptation because the movie was made before the final volume came out.
Right.
So they kind of had to just take notes and like crib an ending, which is why the back half of that is so weird. So like everyone was excited, like in like I would say like the vibe was like, oh yes, we're finally gonna have like this is the Scott Pilgrim thing, animated start to finish, the whole story. Like yeah, maybe they'll tweak a few things and change some stuff here and there, but whatever.
Right.
And then instead it was kind of just like a weird misdirection.
That's annoying.
To what ends, I don't know. They've already said there won't be another season. It was always meant to be just a standalone thing.
So it wasn't very successful then.
I'm gonna bet it wasn't very successful because
I bet if it made all the money, they would have greenlit a sequel immediately.
And it's one of those things too. Like, and this is the last dig I'll give it is like, if you're coming to this and this is your first introduction to anything Scott Pilgrim, you are going to be so fucking confused.
Yeah.
Because it's like the Disney Plus shows. It's like everything else. Unless you've seen the comics and the movie and the video game, there's shit that you're not going to get because you don't know like the basic story of what it was.
Okay.
And you have like no frame of reference for anything.
Yeah. I have no interest in that.
So I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. I guess they're just literally relying on like the core fan base it already has.
It can't be that big.
And it's almost like, and I've seen people say this online, it's like, this feels like this should have been season 2 to like, they adapted it first. And then they made this to follow it up. And then maybe people would be like more palatable to that, but I don't know. Fuck it, it can rot in hell.
Okay.
Now, on the other hand, I stumbled on a weird anime movie from 2018 that I had never heard of. Kind of slipped my radar. Called Arane, Sign of Vermilion.
What is it about?
And so kind of like the buzz about this one is that it was all animated and conceived and written and directed by one dude. This guy named Saku Sakamoto. Now, I do believe, I didn't super go into this, but he is an illustrator. He's worked at some different anime studios, doing art and stuff. And he kind of just had this idea for like a horror film that he wanted to do animated style and just kind of kept working on it by himself and building up and building up.
Well, it'll work for one person.
So the animation is rough at times, but again, you have to keep in mind, like, this is one guy that did all this. And in that light, it's like super fucking impressive. He did lean on some CG for some stuff, a lot of like the backgrounds,
Sure.
things like that. But
I think we can come a break there.
so it's this very weird, very trippy horror story about this woman named Ren. And we learned that she's a college student, and she was like moving to an apartment to kind of be near to campus, and she got this weird shady deal that was supposed to be super cheap in this nice new like eco-friendly building where they took like an old industrial complex and like renovated it and then turned it into apartments.
Okay.
In reality, it's this weird like rundown like horrific slum building that's perpetually cast in like a red glow of light, and it's just like weird. And she keeps seeing all these strange bugs everywhere. There's these creepy moths that have like eyes in the design of their wings and stuff. And she'll find like someone who's like sick, and they'll be scratching, and she'll see like stuff crawling under their skin. Very like disturbing, like body horror shit going on.
Nice.
And at the same time, there's a string of killings going on in the city, and they think it's a serial killer. And you don't really get a sense of like what degree she has, but it's something psychological related. She has psychology books. She's in a class at one point, and they're talking about like analyzing the mentality of a person. So you don't know if maybe it's like she's a criminal profiler or just a general psychologist, but she wants to try to start understanding what the fuck's going on in this city because something's weird.
Sure.
And as she goes, she starts to meet all these weird characters. She meets this girl that like may or may not be dead or is missing. There's this strange woman that lives in her apartment complex. It's pushing around this carriage, but you never see the baby inside, and you don't know if there is a baby or not. Mm-hmm. There's said mass serial killer who has like a surgical level like buzzsaw that he's running around with, the kind you would use to like open up a skull or something. Yeah. And it just gets crazy and trippy and weird, and then it starts to go into like multiple layers of narrative as she starts to unravel what's going on. Because like on the one level, it's like there's maybe these things called spirit bugs that represent like the soul of a person. And when they leave, sometimes a person can become a monster in the aftermath of that. And then there's like a thing she finds about like there were strange military experiments in World War II where they were trying to make like unliving perfect soldiers to use for combat. And then it's like, is it that? Is it this? And she has dreams of like a weird future world where it's like the apocalypse and there's gigantic bugs everywhere and everything is just like fucking destroyed in like this hellscape. And she kind of just starts to lose her grip on reality as she tries to seek the truth. And I'll say no more. It has a super trippy ending that was super weird. I'm still not sure what I think about it. I guess you want to watch it again and see if maybe like knowledge from the back half kind of changes things in the front half. But really cool, super impressive for one guy. And he's working on a sequel called The Feast of Amrita, which is supposed to come out this year.
Cool. And
it seems like it's going to continue some of the threads from the first one as far as like this idea of like these spirit bugs and the strange like apartment complex that's at the center of everything.
So this is something you would recommend?
Highly, yeah.
Is it easily accessible?
I don't know if it's streaming anywhere at the moment, but Sentai Filmworks, they're one of the big anime companies over here right now. Mm-hmm. They have a Blu-ray release of it.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty cheap. It's like $15-$20 depending on where you catch it. So,
right on.
Worthy investment if you like some Japanese horror and you like anime. And I even noticed the director of Ring Zero. He had some very kind stuff to say about this film because he watched it and kind of promoted it.
Oh, cool. I like Ring Zero.
He said that to him it was the first time that an actual anime feature had captured like the feeling of a J-horror movie. And, of course there's other like horror anime, but this one actually like has that vibe. Yeah. It was kind of how he framed it. That's Norio Saruta is his name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I had to look it up. I forgot.
Nice. I shall check it out.
So yeah, put that on your radar if you like weird J-horror stuff.
And you really should.
Right, so today we are talking about Blowout from 1981, directed by the Brian De Palma. This is our second go at one of his films, I believe.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot about Phantom of the Paradise. Yeah. Duh. That is such an outlier for De Palma. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, technically, yeah, it's a De Palma film, but it's just, whew.
Once you know his films, you see the elements in there. But yeah, if you watch it in a vacuum, it's like,
it's different.
How did he go from one to the other?
Yeah.
Do you want to do the synopsis, or I've got one over here?
Go for it, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jack Terry is a master sound recordist who works on grade B horror movies. Late one evening, he is recording sounds for use in his movies when he hears something unexpected through his equipment. Curiosity gets the better of him when the media becomes involved, and he begins to unravel the pieces of a nefarious political conspiracy. As he struggles to survive against his shadowy enemies and expose the truth, he no longer knows whom he can trust.
Pretty succinct.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had not seen this before.
I had not, no.
It has been a while since I've seen it. I saw it, oh my God. It's probably been 20 years since I've seen this movie.
Damn.
But it always stuck with me. I always really enjoyed it.
So we don't usually talk about what other people think about it until the end, but I kind of wanted to bring this up right at the top.
Okay.
This didn't do very well in theaters.
It did not.
And it was kind of after the fact it got a cult following and led to people kind of re-examining it down the line.
Yeah, like it had a budget of $18 million, which is pretty I think it was his most expensive film to date.
That's big for him.
Yeah. But only made $13.7 million at the box office.
Not good.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, I think when he pitched it, when I was reading stuff about it, they said that his pitch was like $3 million to make it. And then they wanted to pump a bunch of money in it and get like bigger stars. So we should say the titular Jack character that we were talking about is played by John Travolta.
That's got a great cast.
And he's looking good in this movie, man.
Yeah, this is... God, until I started watching more of his filmography, I always really dismissed Travolta. Well, okay, so before Pulp Fiction, he wasn't really on anyone's radar if you're of a certain age.
Right.
I had seen... Of course, I saw Carrie.
Right.
And he's fine in it, but he doesn't have that big of a part. I saw Saturday Night Fever, which...
It's fun.
Yeah, but it's also very goofy and pretty laughable by today's standard. It aged poorly. Let's put it that way.
I haven't revisited it since like high school.
Oh, what caught in my hair? You touch it. You touch my hair.
Grease, of course.
Grease, yes, which I have a...
Which is the word.
It is the word. Oh my God, I don't know how many times I had to hear that soundtrack as a kid.
Man, I still listen to it, so.
And nothing wrong with that. It's fine. It's a fun movie. But...
well, actually, when I was reading about this, apparently this was one of the films that contributed to kind of tanking his career for a little bit.
That's sad because he's excellent in this.
It's very sad.
He is very good in this movie. He has a very strong performance.
So what genre is this movie?
Oh, God. Let's see what IMDb calls it. They call it crime, drama, mystery.
All valid, I think. Yeah.
All valid. I don't know why thriller isn't in this.
Definitely thriller.
They throw thriller on everything. Why is thriller not on this one?
The one time they should easily have it in there, they don't.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think it's important, too, to mention just like conspiracy, just in general, because that's very deeply rooted in this film.
Oh,
this
yeah.
plot. And I've noticed in some places they refer to this as a neo-noir. Which that's a whole loaded thing, and I know one day Michael I think wants to talk about that because that's like a whole bug to get into. But
well, then he needs to get his ass over here and talk about it.
But I can kind of see it. I think
it has elements of noir. Sure.
You've got like the woman in trouble.
Yeah, you got someone getting involved in a mystery, trying to figure it out. You got some sleazy people. You got the whole kind of dirty city underbelly kind of thing going,
which wrapped up in that noir and thriller side. Also, there's a little bit of like a gialli vibe in this.
Very, very much a gialli vibe in this,
especially in the score. I thought.
Yep.
It has that mix of like you've got the low to the ground like synthy stuff, but then when you need it for that big moment, you've got the sweeping orchestral, just like big moment song.
Yeah, and of course the score was done by Pino Donaggio, who had done fuck ton of movies, fuck ton of stuff. And I could have swore he worked with Argento's song, but I looked it up and he hasn't. Surprisingly.
Well, then notably, the kind of one of the title themes in this, I think it's called Sally and Jack. It's like the love theme between the two of them. Tarantino used that in Death Proof.
Okay.
He's also a big fan of this movie.
Yeah.
I think he says to him it's like the best, I think, with De Palma. So.
Wow. Okay. An argument could be made.
But yeah, I guess let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Yeah. This movie, and I don't think you'll argue with me on this, it has one of the best openings of all time.
Yes. It opens in one of the movies that they've been making.
Yes. It just opens this way with it's a POV shot. There's a killer outside this college dorm. You know, it's his point of view. It's the same thing we've seen a billion times in slasher films.
Very 80s slasher.
And this came out in 81. This came out at the height of slasher films. So they're already parodying the stuff, which we knew because we have movies like Student Bodies and things like that. It was already being parodied all the way back then. But it's so fun to see it done so well.
On this budget with this level of talent.
Yeah, and this movie they're working on is called Co-Ed Frenzy, we find out. And I wish he shot the whole movie because I want to see this movie.
Dude, I would watch this. I would watch this in a heartbeat.
It's like 5 minutes of some teenage kid's id exploded all over the screen.
Yes. Well, the cool thing is, like, he's out the back of the dorm, and there's several rooms, and each room has a window, and of course it's open, and the blinds are open, and he kind of just is weaving room to room, and you're seeing all the raunchy shit these people are getting up to.
Each room has its own site.
Yeah.
There's like these two girls half naked dancing, listening to loud music, and there's this cop too who's walking by, and he stops, security guard maybe. Campus security, and he's watching, and then the killer comes up behind and stabs him.
Yes.
And then the killer starts watching.
You got one room where a girl has snuck a guy in. They're having sex.
Yeah, they're having sex.
You've got a nice girl who's studying.
Yeah, telling the loud girls to be quiet.
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to get Sue. So she comes back with Sue, and Sue's like she has an open robe, underwear, just sexy as hell.
Made me think a little bit of Black Christmas.
Oh, yeah. For sure. So the killer gets into the building, and this is where it becomes even more surreal because he should be seen by these people.
Yeah, very clearly.
He's kind of ducking behind walls and stuff like that. But I mean, he passes right in front of people that would see this guy.
Yeah.
But somehow he's like magically immune to being detected.
It's like he has that Michael Myers power or something.
Right. And he's like, he sees the shower room, right? And he looks behind him. And this open door, and there's a girl masturbating in there. Yeah. And it's just...
Jeez. And I love to, he goes into the bathroom. We're getting to the climax of the scene. And he looks at himself in the mirror. Uh-huh. Cool shot.
And I thought he looked kind of like Stephen King. Did you think that?
A little bit, yeah. I can see that.
Kind of dorky looking, kind of...
Little doofy, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's someone in there taking a shower.
Sure is.
And you know you got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do the psycho kill.
Yeah. So he goes to the shower, opens up the door. She sees him. He raises the knife, and she starts screaming.
And we get the limpest, just like...
It's like... And then we cut to like a viewing booth room, you know, and it's Jack Terry, played by John Travolta, with his director, and they're watching the movie that they're shooting. They're watching the rushes, right?
Yeah. And Jack just starts laughing.
Yeah, yeah. And his director's like, "What the fuck? That's a terrible scream."
And all of us, they're debating it. He's like, "Well, I didn't hire her for her scream. I hired her for her tits."
And then he's like, "What are you worried about? She's got great tits. They're not going to be caring about the scream."
And they do a funny thing where they make them like isolate the audio because he's convinced that it's not the scream itself that's the problem. Mm-hmm. But when they do it, yeah, Jack's right. It's just a terrible scream.
Terrible scream. And I think we should go ahead and mention real quick that and it was a gorgeous Steadicam shot on the opening here, and it was done by Garrett Brown, who is the inventor of the Steadicam.
Oh, yeah. Which Steadicam is something that Brian De Palma loves to use, and this was kind of the start of him fooling around with that.
And Brown had just got done shooting The Shining.
Oh.
There's this great interview with him on the Blu-ray where he's like, "I just got done with The Shining, and I'm coming here." And he thought for a minute they were making some shitty horror movie. He's like, "What the fuck is going on?"
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, his director's really pissed, and he's like, "Hey, we just got to get other girls in and just dub over it and replace the scream. That's all we can do." And he wants
Sam is the director, name of his director.
Yeah, played by Peter Boyden.
Yeah, and there's this funny line where he's talking about, like, the wind sounds awful. I've heard that sound effect, 100 times. Get me new wind.
Yeah, because Jack's like, "Well, that's just the catalog."
Yeah, that's library sound.
Yeah.
I've used it the last 4 movies. And he's like, "Yeah, that's the problem. I keep hearing it." And apparently that was an actual conversation that De Palma had with his sound guy on the previous movie.
It's art imitating life.
Yeah. And they're talking about like how long they've been working together, the movies they've made, and we get a rundown of the titles, which are fantastic.
God, they're amazing. I would watch all of these.
Me too. They made Bloodbath, Bloodbath 2. Apparently Bloodbath was pretty successful. Bad Day at Blood Beach, Bordello of Blood, which strangely became a quite shitty movie later on.
I'm gonna argue with it about it being shitty, but yeah, it was one of the Tales from the Crypt presents films.
And then Coed Frenzy is the current one, which is a great name.
It's $1 million name right there. Yeah, for sure.
So then we get a title sequence. And then we see Jack, he's working in his office.
And we get so much like gear porn in this film.
We do. Because he has the TV on at the same time, and there's like some news reports going on. So he's working, getting his shit together, and De Palma's doing a split screen thing. So you're seeing his reels rolling, all the tape, and
at the same time you're getting the news report at the same time.
Yeah. And this is the first of many gear porn, just devices that are now completely obsolete, but are so beautiful and gorgeous.
And God, just the craft of slicing these the right spot, and
there's still something to that. I'm sorry. I mean, you know me. I'm kind of a old school in some ways, but there is something about that magnetic tape, and the physicality of it, the tactile nature of it, and using your hands to work the knobs and levers and stuff like that. It's just there's something about it.
Oh, for sure.
So on this news report, the big news right now is about Governor McRyan, who is pretty much set to defeat the incumbent president on the next election.
Yep, it's going to be a landslide at this point. There's no way he could lose.
Right. And we also find out that we're in Philadelphia. They're talking about some big Liberty Bell anniversary special extravaganza.
They're gonna have a big parade, and they're going to ring the bell for the first time in like a ton of years.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like kind of filing away a lot of his audio stuff he's recorded, and he's getting his like field recording kit because he's going to go out and try to capture some new wind.
Which he does. So we next see him out at night recording, and this is a fun sequence too.
He's in a park.
He's at a park. He's standing on a bridge. He's got his, big long microphone out, sensitive, listening to all these different sounds.
Yeah, God, the audio design on this of like he'll point his mic and then they like hone the sound, so you're getting like exactly what the mic is picking up.
Yeah, it's faint at first, and it comes in sharper.
And they kind of like they like mute other audio, so it sounds like you're getting like the in headphone can sound that he is getting.
Right. Yeah. Like he hears a couple out for a walk, being kind of cozy and stuff like that, and they're like, "Oh, that guy's watching us."
Yeah. I want to talk about this too because Jack kind of smirks and is like, he's enjoying this.
Sure.
And that's like a De Palma thing, right? Like this voyeuristic element. Like I think a Dress to Kill.
Oh yeah.
That has like a very heavy voyeuristic element. To
And
the
the
way
follow up to this, Body Double.
Yeah.
Does big time. Also very Hitchcockian, the whole rear window thing.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that De Palma worships at the altar of Hitchcock.
For sure.
And like he's getting like owl sounds and a frog and going back and forth to those. But then he hears something else, and it sounds like tires squealing and the engine revving.
Well, there's like a pop.
Yeah, there's like a pop.
And then he hears a tire squeal. Mm-hmm. And he turns just in time to see this very nice car kind of careening along the road.
Yep.
And it, boom, crashes through the fence and just goes right into the lake.
Right into the lake. And he was like, holy shit. And wastes no time. To his credit, throws all his equipment down, gets into the water, and swims down there. And
we get a neat scene as he dives in. We see from like the underside of the bridge, and there's just a guy there, and he looks like he has a camera.
Right.
And he flips the fuck out and just runs away.
Right.
That was so much like a Giallo moment to me of just like, here's this weird little crumb we're going to throw you.
Right.
What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. I forgot to mention that. Thank you. There's a woman trapped in the car.
And that's our other lead, Sally, played by Nancy Allen.
Who was married to De Palma at the time. Was also in Carrie, where she was also matched with John Travolta in that one.
You think old Brian had a predilection there?
He had a type. She was also in Dress to Kill. Great in that.
Oh, yeah.
I actually played a sex worker in that one, too. Anyway. There's also a man who was dead in the car.
Clearly,
head wound is
was just taken out. There's no saving him.
So eventually he gets the girl out.
It's pretty harrowing too, because like he tries to open the door, break in, he can't. He has to go up for air, come back down, and then he gets a rock and is able to finally smash the window out.
Right. Yes. And also a story that De Palma has is that Nancy Allen is extremely claustrophobic.
Oh.
And he didn't want to put her through this scene, but she was like, no, I want to do it. I want to do it. And if you have seen Body Double, you will know he works this into that movie.
Oh. I haven't seen Body Double in a while. It's kind of fuzzy for me.
Yeah, it's Craig Wasson where he plays an actor, but he has claustrophobia. But he has this scene where he has to be in a coffin, and he freaks out, and he can't do it.
Nice.
So similar to this movie, we'll find out it involves an artist having issues with their work, but using their craft as a way to cure themselves in a way.
Neat.
Yeah. So anyway, we're at the hospital, and Jack's like giving a statement, talking to some cop, talking about how you heard a bang before the blowout.
Oh, there's the title.
Oh, yeah. And the cop's like, yeah, whatever. You're out there recording. We don't care. They're pretty dismissive.
And he asks if he can check on the girl. Is she okay? And they're like, well, we drugged her, but if you're just a few minutes, it's probably not a big deal.
Yeah. And I love how he's also smoking the entire time.
Just chain smoking.
Walking through the hospital smoking.
This is a busy place, too. They have like a ton of patients. All the seats are filled with people waiting to be seen.
Yeah, this is no Halloween 2 hospital.
No.
This is actually like busy. It's actually a hospital.
Philadelphia's a little more jumping than Haddonfield.
Yeah, he goes to talk to the girl. She's kind of sedated and a little out of it. Her name's Sally. And Jack's kind of instantly flirting with her,
It's funny because at first it seems like he's just trying to be like friendly, but yeah, there's some chemistry there.
Yeah. But he's nice to her. He's
And it's funny because she's just wanting to jump up and leave. And just go. And he's like, hey.
Well,
whoa,
you
whoa,
need to
whoa.
stay here, yeah.
And he finally convinces her, if you'll stay in the bed, I'll take you out for a drink when they release you.
Yeah. But she's like, I want to go now. But then there's a commotion in the hospital. Like, even more activity starts happening. These cops are coming in.
Yeah, the media shows up.
Yeah, they're wheeling somebody in on a stretcher and shit. And we get a really cool split diopter.
Yeah, another one.
There's a lot of good ones in this movie. This is a really nice one where we have Travolta in the foreground, and in the background is like a couple of cops talking, giving us the rundown of what happened.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, it's Governor McRyan.
Yep, turns out it's McRyan who was in the car. And Jack gets pulled aside by one of his men. What's his name? Lawrence. Lawrence Henry is his name.
Played by John McMartin.
Yeah. And he tells Jack, because the cop told him everything that happened. He tells Jack, forget about the girl you found. There was no girl. We don't need to do this to his family. He's out with some other woman.
Yeah.
Why put them through it?
He's already dead. That's going to devastate them anyways. Let's not muddy it up.
Yeah, and Travolta's like, I don't know if I can agree with that. That's not the truth. That's not what happened.
Which is your first hint about his kind of character.
He's got some honor, But eventually he's like, yeah, okay, whatever, If he's dead and he doesn't want to... He's made to feel guilty about it. So it's like, okay, I won't say anything.
And they kind of just put him up to getting Sally out of there, too.
Yeah, because Sally wants to get out of there, but they're also talking about how they don't want to go to their homes because they don't want to talk to any reporters or anyone who's been, following up on them. So they just go to a motel. And he kind of puts her in the bed.
Yeah, because she's out of it still, where she's on all the medicine and stuff.
And he starts getting out his equipment. Not that equipment. Not that equipment.
His audio equipment.
His audio equipment.
Which he carefully preserved when he went in to save her.
Yep.
And he's thinking, I'm just going to pass some time and check my recording.
Yeah.
He's not even really caring about the wreck so much at first. But it's as he listens, that's when it suddenly starts to click with him a little bit.
Yeah, we get this really cool scene where he's sitting at the table in the motel room and he's like holding a pencil, like he was holding his microphone.
Yeah, he's remembering every direction.
And he's listening to it and he's moving his pencil in the direction of where he moved his microphone, and there's back and forth. It's really, really fun. And there's even a sequence where he imagines a gun firing and blowing out the tire.
Right, because he's just imagining to the sounds.
Yeah.
And that's when, because everyone had said at the hospital, like, oh, the tire blew out on the car.
Tire blew out, right.
It was a freak accident.
And he's convinced he hears a bang before the blowout. So later that night, we get some guy looking sneaky. He removes a tire from his trunk. And we also notably see a box that says magnetic tape eraser.
Yeah.
And this is something, I miss this. I miss subtlety. It's like... There is no way in hell it would be that subtle now.
Right. Well, because you have the internet and the cloud and...
That too, but even if someone was just going to erase someone's tapes at some point, because you see this box, that's going to happen. He has this equipment and he's going to do it. They would have showed it actually happening. They would never have trusted the audience to see this box and read it and put that together later on. So this guy brings out another tire, goes to the sedan that had wrecked. The governor swaps him out.
We know there's something nefarious
something nefarious is happening.
And it's that classic thing where it's like you, the viewer, knows, but we've been given info that the characters don't have.
Yep. Yeah, so the next morning, Jack's kind of talking about what he does, his profession to Sally, and says that he just does sound for bad movies.
Yeah.
And she talks about how she loved to do makeup for movies. She's really good at makeup.
Yeah, some of her scenes are funny too, where she talks about like how you can transform a face with makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's been developments in the death of McRyan. We find out there's this character, Manny Carp, who's played by Dennis Franz, and he is a like tabloid photographer type. At least that's how he presents himself at first.
Yep.
And he said he was out shooting some night shots. He has a really fancy camera that can take night shots. And he just happened to be in the park when the blowout happened.
Just happened to be.
And he captured footage of the wreck, and he sold it to a bunch of magazines.
Yep. And this is Dennis Franz in one of his first of many sleazy roles.
Yeah. I mean, he's so perfect for it, too.
Wasn't it like this year or the next he was in Psycho 2?
Yeah.
As the hotel manager. There's also a scene where Jack kind of asks Sally what she was doing in the car.
Yeah.
And she gets offended. Like, what are you implying? Yeah, none of your business, that kind of thing.
Like it's exactly what he thinks it is.
Yeah. It's just like the movie Pieces. It's exactly what you think it is. And there's this great scene where Jack is going through the offices of their building.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's like International Pictures Incorporated or something like that. Obviously modeled after API. Or I guess AIP.
AIP,
yeah, AIP. And we've seen all these great posters hanging up.
Yes.
And there's a little booklet that comes with the Blu-ray, and there's like a spread of some of the posters.
Oh, which again, when this episode drops, I think the Criterion sale's still going on. You can run out to Barnes & Noble, get this 50% off.
Yeah. You can hear me flipping through it right now.
Yeah. That's some good podcasting right there.
It is, isn't it? it's some good ASMR. Do you like these pages?
Oh, God.
You like the way I flip them around? Real soft. Okay, so some of the posters we have are The Incredible Melting Man, The Boogeyman. That one's pretty prominent. Without Warning. Squirm. Great poster for a terrible movie. Empire of the Ants.
Classic.
Let's see, Food of the Gods. Something called Fantasex.
Oh.
So it's like some, yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Some softcore stuff there. So all these great, lovely posters. Oh, also in this booklet, there's like a reproduction of the magazine article that John Travolta is about to peruse.
Nice.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. Yeah,
also, when he's cutting through there, isn't that when they have the like lineup of girls? It's like the first wave of girls they brought in.
Yeah. And his director's trying to get him to come home and listen to the girls screaming. He's like, I don't have time. Yeah, so Jack gets a copy of the magazine, and there's like series of still pictures.
No magazine would ever print this either. It's so weird. It's just pages and pages of like each frame of the shot.
Well, apparently it was heavily influenced by the Zapruder film, because some magazines did print the Zapruder film.
Okay,
like
let me rephrase what I said. No one now would print this.
No one now would print this. No one now would go out and buy a magazine.
Well, that's true as well. Yeah, I guess they would be on a website, and each picture would be its own page, so they could get more ad clicks.
Yeah. So, and I love this scene too, because Jack starts cutting up all the pictures.
Yeah.
And he's putting them in the right order, and he does a little flip thing, like a flip book, and you can see that, hey, he's got some motion here. Because that's what movies are, It's just a series of, still pictures.
And it's funny too, because like he has this idea that like if he sets it to the images, his audio will make it more clear that it was a gunshot.
Right.
That
That's
blew
his
up the
intention.
tire.
Yeah. And we see him taking shots. He loads them up onto his camera and takes 1 second shots, makes a movie out of it, and drops it off to be processed. Because back then you also had to wait forever for a lab to process your fucking film.
That's true as well.
So Jack calls up Sally. They meet at the train station. She's about to go somewhere. He talks her into getting a quick drink.
Oh, real quick, I had a gear porn note that I put
Oh,
down.
yeah.
When he's making his own little like thing with the animation camera, that camera is a Bolex H16 EBM electric 16 millimeter.
Oh.
It was made in Switzerland, and it was first introduced in 1935.
Wow. Nice.
And just to get it out of the way, since we're in this little break, the sound recording equipment that he uses on the bridge, that's a Swiss-made Nagra 3. So if you want to go troll eBay and try to pick some of those up, I'm sure it's the cost of a car or something at this point. But
It's either extremely cheap or horribly expensive.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
so yeah, he goes to meet up with Sally.
Yeah, and they're talking at the bar at the train station.
Because she's getting out of town.
And we get a little background on Jack.
Yeah, here's where it pieces together that the hospital scene where he's like, well, no, that's not the truth.
Yeah, right.
We learn what he was doing before he started making movies.
He was working with the cops. Well, he said he did a stint for the Marines.
Yeah.
And then he started working with the cops. And she's like, oh, you're a cop? No, he was working for some special commission that was investigating corruption.
Yep, they're capturing corrupt cops.
Yeah, he was their sound guy.
So he would rig up the wires on people to get the confessions.
Exactly.
So they could bust him.
Yep. And we get the flashback to the scene. He's riding along with the cops. They're going after one of their guys who's in a car with some mobsters.
Yeah, this is like the big one. They're going to get like the head gangster that's been like the biggest and most active in their area.
But we see the undercover cop in the car, and he's sweating like a motherfucker, you know?
Dude's nervous.
Yeah. And John Travolta starts having some trouble with the audio. Keeps kind of coming in and out, a lot of static.
And when it cuts to him with the gangster guy, he is like jerking and shaking.
Yeah, he's obviously in some discomfort and asked to go to the bathroom. So they stop somewhere. And Jack's narrating this, and he talks about how the one thing he did not figure on was that this guy was going to sweat profusely and short out his equipment. So it started fucking burning him.
Yeah.
So they're telling him in the car, and they stop, and they see the undercover guy go in the bathroom. But the mobster come in after him, but then just the mobster leaves, and they drive off.
Mm-hmm. And the officer tries to stop Jack, but he immediately books it in there to check on him.
Yeah, because he's a good guy. And the undercover dude is strung up by the fucking sound equipment, by like the wire.
Yep.
So we get some of his trauma here.
Yeah, and so that's kind of why he's on these like B-grade movies, is because like he doesn't want to be, I guess, like in the action in a way. Like
he doesn't want to be in a position where he's going to put someone's life, in peril.
So he's still using kind of his like audio engineer related skills, but
in a safer context.
But this whole incident has kind of brought him back to where he was, in a sense.
Yeah, it kind of reignites his crusader spirit. Mm-hmm. So now he wants to figure out, and he's tired of people fucking around with him. Right. So he wants to figure out what's going on. And we find out from Sally that Henry dude gave her money to leave town. That's why she was at the train station.
Yep.
But Jack's like, nah, stick around. You got to help me out.
He says, if you help me, we can blow this wide open.
Mm-hmm. And he tells her about his plan to sync his audio to the images of the car once he gets the film back.
And it'll make it so obvious no one would ever doubt it.
Yep. Good plan.
And then this is where we check in with... we get a little bit more about the Manny Carp guy, right? This is where we find out that like him and Sally kind of work together.
We have one scene before that, which is someone from afar holding a picture of Sally at the mall. And he's like watching people walking by. And you see a woman who looks very much like Sally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he begins to follow her. And they leave the mall, and they're out in some desolate space. And once he kind of gets her alone, he grabs her and takes her off into the shadows. And it's like some construction zone or something. Garrotes her. And then takes an ice pick and starts stabbing her.
Which and this later learn he makes the shape of the Liberty Bell.
He does. And we see that this individual is none other than John Lithgow.
Yeah, which is kind of shocking.
One of the greatest actors of our time. I genuinely believe that.
He's great in this.
He is amazing. And I think he's been criminally underutilized. I mean, he's always showing up in supporting roles and stuff like that, but man, the man is awesome. He's so good.
Yeah, but this character is Burke, and he's kind of part of the conspiracy that's working against McRyan.
He is indeed.
He's kind of taking it into his own hands.
He takes his job very seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we get the scene where Sally goes to Carp, and we realize, oh, hey, yeah, they're in cahoots.
Yeah, it's not that she's really a prostitute so much as they kind of scam people. They
the whole honeypot.
Yeah, she'll get in with a guy. Don't even have to have sex. Just kind of get in the bed with him.
Compromising position.
Manny gets the photos. Then they blackmail him.
Get the money.
Get some money. Get out.
Yep.
Nice and easy.
Yep. And she's giving him shit because she said how she could have died that night, you know. Mm-hmm. And, you didn't do anything. And he's like, hey, what was I supposed to do? That guy jumped in the water. He saved you. He did a better job than I could have.
Yeah, but basically we learned, so one of the rivals to McRyan hired Burke to kind of set this all up. And Manny kind of frames it like, well, I didn't know that Burke was going to shoot out the tire.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that was part of the plan.
Yeah, this guy hired me to go there and shoot film. Mm-hmm. I didn't know anything else. When that happened, the guy saved you. I booked. I'm getting the money. What's your problem?
and so what we kind of learn in the next few scenes from Burke's end is that this is like a loose end, right? That Sally is still alive.
Correct.
And
he's talking to a guy who was being interviewed earlier in the movie. I forget the guy's name, but he was like the governor's right-hand man.
Yeah,
his older dude.
Assistant.
And the guy's like fussing at Burke, saying that was not the plan. You were supposed to get pictures of him with the hooker. That's it.
And he's like, well, you wanted McRyan out of the race.
I got him out of
the race.
Yeah. Basically, he went with his own plan that he proposed, but was shot down on.
And then they're like, well, we just need to, cover up all the loose ends now at this point. And he's like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And they're like, well, what are you doing?
Yeah, and he lays out his entire plan.
Yep, he's going to kind of configure and create a story of a serial killer who is, what's the name? The Liberty Bell Strangler.
Yeah.
And he is going to kill women that looks like Sally to make a chain of plausibility and then eventually kill her.
Yep.
So that's the loose end tied up.
Make it like she just got killed by a serial killer. I mean, not a bad plan as far as plans go, I guess.
I mean, if you're a raving madman, I guess.
And Lithgow's really great here, too. He's playing Burke like, you could tell he's probably ex-military. He's very clipped, very professional.
He always feels like he's 1 second from blowing up, but he never really does.
Yeah, it's that kind of contained rage. Yeah. And he's talking on a public phone, too, but he's like, he's dressed up as like a telephone worker, like working on the lines and stuff like that. Meanwhile, Jack has the film with the car crash that he made, and there's another wonderful gear porn, as you say, sequence of him syncing it up. He's working on his moviola, and he's syncing up the images with his audio and using his wax pencil to mark it where the sound happens.
God, I love that.
Yeah, cutting it together. It's just...
we should say there is kind of like a goof here, but I don't see a reason to harp on it, but I've noticed online some people do, is that the number of photos they have of the car aren't enough to make the animation as fluid as it is.
That's just pedantry. I mean, who cares? You're just being a prick at that point.
I guess if you're someone who really cares about animation, you actually need many, many cells of stuff to make fluid animation like that.
But I don't know. There's a recreation of all the pictures here, and there's quite a few of them.
I didn't put in my notes because I didn't care to, but someone did factor in like how many it would have to actually be to make that.
Yeah, because you're talking about 24 frames per second, and it's probably
but
so many seconds, and it's not that many frames.
Whatever.
Yeah, who cares? Doesn't matter.
So he takes it to the cops.
Yep.
And I think this scene is super fucking fascinating.
It is. Oh, but before that, we also see that he hides the tape up in his closet.
Yeah, in his apartment, he has like the
drop-down ceilings.
The drop-down ceilings, and so he kicks one up and hides the original up in there.
Yeah. And he even sees a puff of smoke from the gun in this film he made. But yeah, he goes to the cops. And you find the scene fascinating?
Yes, I do, because the guy he gets, I guess it's the detective that's on the case. And it almost feels like they have a little history.
Right.
Because you do find out that the detective is familiar with what Jack used to do.
Yeah.
And he's kind of bitter to him because he's like, you put away some good men.
Right, even though they were doing shady shit.
Doing what you did.
Yeah, the whole thin blue line thing. They got to stick together, blah, blah, blah bullshit.
And it seems like he's really dismissive of him, but I think it's notable that despite all the shit he gives him, he does still decide, well, I'm going to watch the tape and look at your evidence. Because it's like he knows that Jack's a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
Means what he says.
But he's not going to do it right now.
No.
Because Jack even tries to take it. He's like, no, put that right back down here.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to take it to someone who will. And he's like, no. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah. So then...
I guess just to sum up on that, I think it tells you a lot about Jack as a character without, like, them info dumping it on you.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's economical storytelling, you might say.
So Jack eventually finds out about Carp. Well, he knows about Carp because he's all over the news and shit like that because of the magazine pictures and all that. He goes to his place of business, and he finds a cop there because they're looking for him too.
Oh, but before this, isn't this where, like... Because the whole impetus for this is that when the detective watches the video, there's nothing there.
That hasn't happened yet.
Oh, it hasn't?
It has not. No. But I think Jack wants to try to get the original film.
Okay, yeah. You're right, yeah.
Because there's some dialogue about how anyone could construct that together and make their own audio.
Yeah, he brings that up to Sally, is that people could say that he faked it all.
Yeah.
If he was like a conspiracy nut
Yeah, but if he gets the original film, then there you go. Which hopefully has audio and whatnot, but whatever.
So yeah, he goes to Carp's to try to theft that.
And that's when he finds out about Sally's hustle.
Because he finds all the photos. That's funny because the detective that's there is going through the photos. He's like, hey man, check this out.
Yeah. And she's in a bunch of different ones with different men in compromising positions. So that's when Jack goes back to his studio and is stopped by Sam. And there's this funny sequence where he's got a couple of girls in the sound booth. Yeah. And he's playing the movie. And they're doing some ADR. And they're trying to get screams out of each other. And they're like pulling each other's hair and crap like that. But neither of them can scream for shit.
And he tells them to keep looking.
Yeah. That's when he goes into his work area and starts trying to play through his tapes. And there's that great scene where it's just 360 degrees of the camera. It's set in the center of the room. And it's just going around and around and around. And we're seeing Jack going from device to device, different reels, stringing, the film and listening to it. And you're not really knowing what's going on at first. Right. You don't really understand it. But then, the secretary comes in, you hear his phone ring in, and she's like, will you answer your phone? It's the police calling for you. And he's like, someone's erased all my fucking tapes.
Yeah. Which is crazy, because it's even his, library sounds and stuff.
Yeah, everything in his room is gone. And that's when we get the cop on the other end of the line saying, what the fuck, you gave me a blank tape. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where you put two and two together with the
box from the beginning. Yeah. Yeah. But you see what I mean? Nowadays, they would have had to show John Lithgow breaking into his office, running the device along all the tapes.
Which then, isn't that what the secretary says? She says someone came to see you, but you were out.
Right.
And he's able to piece that together. So now the original tape really matters a lot, because that's all that's left.
And Jack's trying to leave, but he gets stopped by a reporter. Frank Donahue is his name.
And he's such a good TV personality.
Oh, yeah. Voice, He looks like a perfect casting. But he wants Jack, he's heard about him, he wants Jack to bring his tape on the air and tell the audience what he saw.
Yeah, because he kind of seems like he goes in some of the same circles of thought as Jack. And so he too was suspicious of this whole scenario. And when he heard about him, he was like, oh, I can kind of bridge the gap for you on this. Yeah. I think he says I average 8 million viewers. And so that'll be 8 million people that'll believe your story right out of the gate. Right. And then they'll tell their friends and... Yeah. Unfortunately, we find out that everything has been tapped with regards to Jack.
Yeah, he goes back to his apartment, and we see Burke listening in. He's tapped his line. But Burke did not know about the original tape that Jack had made, which is still in his ceiling.
Yep, so Burke sets up a plan that he knows they're going to take this footage to Donahue. And so he kind of he makes it where Jack's phone can't take any calls.
Yeah. Because Jack's talking about how he needs to get the original tape. So he needs, and he kind of confronts Sally about what she was doing, the whole honeypot scheme and all that stuff. And she's like, hey, don't judge me. You don't know me.
That's what I got to do.
Screw you. I need the money. Yeah. But he's like, get the original film from Carp. But and Burke's listening to the whole thing.
So his plan is to try to intercept that.
Yep.
But before his plan goes live, this is where Sally goes to get that footage. Because this is an interesting scene, too, because when she comes in, Manny's wanting to skip town.
Yep.
Tries to get her to go along with him. And she's kind of trying to sweet talk him because she wants a chance to grab the tape. And he gets a little fresh with her.
Yeah, he does not take no for an answer. So she's got to upside him in the head with a bottle. Knocks him out. Gets the original film. And skedaddles with it.
Yep. And then this is where Burke's plan comes in. Because Donahue's supposed to call Jack to set everything up for them to meet. And bring the footage. And he makes it so that Jack can't get any calls.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, he calls Sally and impersonates Donahue.
Right.
And it's like, well, Jack's busy. You come with the tape.
Meet me at the train station. There's also that really good scene where we see Lithgow in the booth again, confessing to his crime to the police. and his face is just blank. But he's giving this vocal performance of a guy who's like, in turmoil, confessing that he killed a girl again and he can't stop.
This was so giallo.
Yeah. Yeah, it
He was
really
describing it and stuff. I was like, dude.
Great acting moment, too.
But Sally and Jack do link up again before all of this. Because he kind of realizes that something screwy's going on.
Yeah, he said it doesn't make a lot of sense. He hasn't been getting any phone calls. What's going on? But okay, this guy wants to meet her. Fine. So she says, okay. He says, take the tape and everything, but I'm going to wire you so I can hear what's going on, because he's paranoid as fuck at this point, and who can blame him?
Yeah.
He wants to make sure they're not getting dicked over.
So going into this, it's Sally. She's wired up. She has the original video, and she has a copy of the audio, because he still kept that original stashed audio tape.
Right. So they're gearing up to do that, and then we get this extended sequence of Burke at the train station.
Oh God, this is amazing.
It's a great sequence, but I also wonder if it should have been cut for pacing.
It does not really add a lot.
It doesn't add a lot.
Other than just being fun for like genre fans.
It also gives more of a insight into Burke's character, because we get another beautiful split diopter shot. Well, Burke is sitting, they're like in the cafeteria area, and he's sitting in this one area, and then there's like a sailor, a literal sailor, talking to a sex worker, and they're kind of talking in code about how much it's going to cost and that sort of thing. And he's listening, and you could see him like twitching, like he could barely contain himself when they start talking about sex and money and all that.
Which is so funny, because he's like, oh, I've got $20 for 20 minutes.
yeah.
And she's like, no, I need more like $40 for
40 minutes. Yeah. So they just go to a fucking phone booth.
Yeah.
And he's at the other end of the phone booth watching them. She's doing her thing. He gets off too quick. She gets mad, whatever. He only pays her half.
I love it too, because when they're shouting at each other, he's like, I've been on a boat for months. What do you expect?
But then the gal's like holding a $50 bill.
God, I love how he does it, because she hears like a tap and she looks up, and then he's like several phone booths down.
Yeah.
And he just has a 50 plastered up on the wall.
And he looks like a businessman, like any 80s businessman.
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, well, let me freshen up, and then I'll come back here. So she goes to the bathroom, and he follows her, this kind of whole stalking sequence.
And I think this is the first time we get a really good shot of, he has like the phone, or not the phone, God, the phone. He has the watch.
Yeah. Watches were not phones back then.
So he's got
the
this
watch
watch
with the garrote wire.
Yeah, and he like takes off like, it's just like the cap that goes around the edge of it. And then that's connected to a garrote wire that he can stretch out.
Yeah. Classic.
Really cool.
And there's this cool shot where it's kind of up angled, and she's like getting ready, like brushing her teeth and stuff. And he's like leaning over the top of the stall, waiting for her to get in position. But I question this, because he's about to get Sally, right? Yeah. He doesn't need to kill this woman. He's already established a pattern. He just wants to do it. He's just a fucking psycho.
Yeah. Because I think it's one of those things, like, he always had the predilection for it, but now that he's actually killed people.
Yeah. He has the excuse.
Yeah.
He believes in this righteous cause, I guess.
Which is kind of like a trope of serial killers, really, when you think about it. Like,
yeah.
They kind of make their own reason to keep going step by step down that road.
Sure. Like any addict, really.
Oh, well said.
So Jack and Sally arrive at the station. She's all wired up, and Burke's up at a window watching them. Sees her come in. He goes to meet Sally and says, hey, I'm Frank Donahue, blah, blah, blah. It's a good thing. Oh, there's even a line earlier where Sally is like, I don't watch the news. It's too depressing. So
I hate the news.
She doesn't know Frank Donahue from
anyone.
Yeah. From Phil Donahue, I guess. So he's like, I think we might be being followed. So let's walk a little bit and get away from all these people, that kind of thing.
Let's go down on the subway.
And Jack's listening, and he's like, okay, this doesn't sound right. So he runs in there, and he's trying to find them.
There's some great shots of him running through the station, man.
It's so good. It's so
seeking
good.
them. And you just get the audio in his headphones.
Yeah, he's got like the earpiece in, right? He's listening, but he doesn't know where they are. And he hears they go through a turnstile. He's like, okay, I know what that sound is. So he knows where to go to keep following them.
And then he gets another breadcrumb, because I think it's Sally sees the sign of where they're going.
Yeah.
And she mentions it, and he's like, oh, that one.
Yeah, but they're already in the car, and it's taken off.
Well, he tries to walk her to the edge of the terminal, and kill her there.
Yeah,
But
there's like some maintenance crew out there.
Maintenance guy like washing down part of the subway.
So then like, okay, we'll just get on the train.
And Jack just misses it.
Mm-hmm. But he knows where they're going. So he gets in his car, and there's this fucking killer sequence where he's just driving like an animal to get there. And damn, this looks dangerous.
Yeah. Some great overhead shots, too. It's like beautiful.
Back when it was hard to do those, you couldn't just get a fucking drone up there and do it.
Because it cuts into what they've been setting up in the background of this Liberty Day parade. Mm-hmm. And that's going full force, and he is just like cutting through it and driving through the courtyard of buildings. And
barricades and stuff, and barely missing pedestrians.
Gets the cops on his tail for a little bit, loses them.
But then he loses control of his car, smashes into a window, gets knocked unconscious.
Yep.
And then he's waking up. It's a little bit later, but night's already fallen. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? He still has his equipment on him. He has his transmitter. So he puts his, earbud back in and starts listening. And he can still hear Sally and Burke. He's
lured her to kind of this, like, overlook.
Yeah. And Burke gets the tape from her.
Throws it in the water.
Yeah, he just like starts unspooling the tape and wraps it up. And she's like, what are you doing? And he just tosses it in the water. And then she's like, oh shit. So then she starts screaming and trying to run away from Burke.
God, and this is so dramatic because the fireworks are going off.
Yeah, fireworks start going off.
So you've got Jack like pushing through the crowd, trying to find where they are. The fireworks are going off. Sally's struggling against Burke. Mm-hmm. It's just a fucking moment. And this is where they play that really haunting theme.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's a fucking moment, dude. Like, it gave me chills when I watched it.
It's good stuff. And they're kind of up on this kind of a balcony-like area, but not too far from the actual Liberty Bell. And he sees her at the edge, and she's like screaming and yelling. Mm-hmm. So and he starts rushing up there. He gets all the way up there, and he sees Burke from behind, and he's raising his ice pick. And Jack runs up, grabs him, and starts stabbing, Burke's stomach.
And that's where you get that he was in the Marines part.
Yeah.
Like, he clearly knows how to handle himself in a fight.
So Burke flops over dead. He looks to Sally, who is laying motionless on the ground.
She's already dead.
She's already been strangled and is dead.
God, it's such a hard moment, man. Yeah. But, like, goof.
Yeah. And he's just, like, holding her, and we get another great, upper angle shot, kind of panning around them. And the fireworks is going off around them.
And they finally ring the Liberty Bell.
Yeah. Yeah, and we get like a scene of Jack listening to her last moments. Basically, he's just sitting in the snow on a bench in the snow.
Yep.
And then we're back in the editing room, and we're watching Co-Ed Frenzy again, the shower scene. And there's a new scream.
Yep.
And it's a really good scream.
It's Sally's scream.
It's a very convincing scream. Yeah, and then the director's like, wow, that's a great scream. Where'd you get it? It's perfect. He's like, rewind that. I want to hear it again. And he's just sitting there smoking. Yeah.
And when he hears it the second time, he can't take it. He kind of just covers his face.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, that's a good scream. That's a good scream. And then hears it again. Yeah, just like plugs his ears. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the movie.
Damn, man. Like, jeez.
Yep. And De Palma thinks it's this ending that probably didn't do good business for the movie.
But let's be honest. It's the right ending for this film.
It's the only ending. It's the only ending. It's the Vertigo ending.
Right, yeah. Which goes back to Hitchcock.
Right.
And it's one of those things, like, I think more than any other Brian De Palma film I've ever seen, this is the one where you want them to have the happy ending.
Yeah.
Because, like, Jack, just everything he's been through, everything Sally's been through, the fact that they're really just victims of consequence.
Yeah, give them a break,
They didn't even do anything to, like, ask for this. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yep.
And then, like, all the struggles they go through, and then in the end, they can't pull it out. There's a part where they talk about running away together, because he even says, like, let's try this with Donahue, and if it doesn't work, I'll run away with you, and we'll go wherever you want.
Yeah.
And we can just be together and forget all about this.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And you want that for them, and it's like, it's never going to happen.
Nope.
She dies for trying to stick in with him and help it. Mm-hmm. And then without the original video footage, that ruins any hope of ever exposing this.
Yep.
Or getting the truth out there.
So, yeah, Burke's dead, but everybody else gets away, Mm-hmm. The deed's still done. No one's brought to justice.
And the only memory of Sally is this scream and a shitty-ass 1981 horror film.
Yep. Ooh.
Heavy stuff, man. But God, it's so good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm sure we both have copious notes about this one.
Yes. Do you want to share some first? I usually am the note guy, so.
Yeah, I think the first thing to talk about is how it is directly based on Michelangelo Antonioni's 1966 movie Blow Up.
Yes. It's pretty much the same premise. It's just done with photography instead of audio.
Right. And De Palma's made no bones about this. And people often accuse De Palma of plagiarism. But what he always does, he takes something, like be it a Hitchcock movie or something, and this is a dirty word now, I guess, but kind of subverts your expectations on it or puts a twist on it.
It's a different thing. He like takes it and then synthesizes it to do something new, but still pay love to the original thing.
It's a true homage and not a ripoff.
And not like a ha gotcha.
Yeah. Right. And interestingly, Blow Up stars David Hemmings, who was in Deep Red. Oh.
Which we should talk about Antonioni sometime. He's like one of those great classics of the classics.
I've never actually seen Blow Up.
It's fun.
Have you ever seen the Mel Brooks movie High Anxiety?
Yes.
Okay. There's that great reference to Blow Up where he has these pictures and each one's bigger and bigger and one's like an entire wall.
And with that Antonioni film, I think of like Giallo stuff too, because there's so many of those where like there's photographs and the pictures matter. What was the Delirium that we did way a long time ago?
Yeah, before times.
That was very like photography based.
Yeah. Let's see what else.
What else you got?
No, you do one.
Okay. So let's see. We've covered this. I thought this was funny. The first person they wanted for Jack was Al Pacino.
I could see that.
He was unavailable, so...
Especially, that would have been, right after Cruising or something?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about prime Pacino here.
He would have been good in it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I love John Travolta. This might be my favorite role.
I don't want anyone else in this role but Travolta.
But he was the number 2, so that's where they went.
Yeah, he had... Because John had asked De Palma what he was working on, and he sent him the script, and Travolta was like, I want to do this.
Yeah. The studio, when they knew they had John Travolta, said, well, obviously we need Olivia Newton-John to be Sally.
No, we don't.
And De Palma was like, no.
Nothing against her, but no, we don't.
I don't think she could do Sally the way that Nancy Allen did.
I agree. Yeah, Allen does have this good quality where, I mean, she comes across as a kind of an airhead. Not even an airhead, just kind of naive.
She feels like a real person and not like a Hollywood star.
Right.
Like Olivia Newton-John is like... wow, such a star kind of quality.
Yeah.
And I think Nancy Allen feels more like down to earth.
Yeah.
More like everyday person.
Yeah. I agree. And he worked with a lot of the same people on this one as his previous movies. Let's see, we've got Dennis Franz was in Dress to Kill and The Fury. Lithgow was in Obsession, which I have not seen Obsession.
I like Obsession a lot. Yeah. That's very Hitchcocky.
I need to watch that one. And later he'd be in Raising Cain. Which also borrows a scene from a Argento film, from Tenebrae.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. He used the same cinematographer, Vilmos Zsigmond, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Good enough.
From Obsession. Editor Paul Hirsch, who did his early independent movies, Hi Mom, worked on Sisters, kind of an underseen, good movie. Worked on Phantom of the Paradise, Obsession, Carrie, The Fury.
Speaking of his early movies, we should talk about this.
Yeah.
There's a shot in here where there's a movie being shown on TV. I think it's one of the scenes with Manny.
Ah, yes.
He had wanted a particular film to show there. I think it was...
It was an old Corman movie.
Yep.
Dementia 13.
Dementia 13, yeah. And they wanted too much money to put it in there.
Yeah, because Corman.
So they just needed some like footage that they had access to for free that was a movie they could put in there. So they used Brian De Palma's original student film, Murder a la Mode.
Yes. Which is included on the Blu-ray.
Yes.
But I didn't have time to watch it. Did you watch it?
So I like it, but it's real rough. I'm gonna say it's like any other like director you love that has a student film that exists you can watch.
Sure.
It's very rough. It's got a lot of issues. There's compelling things about it. The funnest part about it is that you can see like the seeds. Last time I talked about you can see some of Sono's student films. And like even though they're so rough, you can see like the elements that go on to be in his later films.
Yeah.
It's the same way with De Palma. You see like the voyeuristic elements, the like level of obsession, the kind of the Hitchcock echoes.
Which is not honed yet, right?
Right. It's just all very like rough and raw.
Oh, we should probably also note that Dementia 13, the movie he wanted to use, was one of Francis Ford Coppola's first movie.
Oh.
And Coppola also had done The Conversation with Gene Hackman.
Which is another reference piece for this film.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's all weaving together. Fun John Travolta trivia here. He apparently suffered from insomnia when they were making this film. And,
That's all night shoots. The whole movie is almost all night shoots.
But apparently he said that like the lack of sleep kind of helped him make the persona of Jack be what they wanted.
I could see that.
In a sense. That's why he seems so downtrodden and just like tired with
kind of
everything.
exhausted and fed up.
Because he's supposed to be this guy, like he's been through some shit. He doesn't really like where he is and he's just trying to get by.
Yeah. And De Palma cites his obsession with the JFK assassinations as part of the inspiration for this. But it also, and he kind of downplayed this at the time, I think, but it's inescapable that with the whole car going off the bridge into the water is a definite reference to the Chappaquiddick incident.
Yes.
How much do you know about this?
Not a lot until I saw it mentioned in reference to this film and started looking into it. So why don't you illuminate people a little bit?
Okay. So, this happened in 1969 when United States Senator Ted Kennedy...
Another Kennedy, imagine that.
Yeah. He was out driving with a younger lady and drove off a bridge into the river.
Wow, just like this movie, huh?
Just like this movie. He managed to get out. The girl did not. He goes back to his ultra-rich compound with all of his people. Doesn't report it. Didn't report it until cops started showing up because people found his car and the body of the girl in the car. So he didn't say anything about it till 10 o'clock the following day.
Wow.
Plenty of time to sober up. You know what happened?
Do tell.
He had his license revoked for a couple of months.
Oh, away.
Yeah. So this piece of shit, Ted Kennedy, killed a woman and gets away with it.
Yeah.
Completely gets away with it.
Kind of the complete inversion of this film, though they do have in common that the bad guys get away with it in the end.
Yeah. And this was made after the 70s, which is a really raucous time. A lot of conspiracies, a lot of the whole Watergate thing. There was a lot of government corruption and all that shit going on.
Watergate's definitely an influence on this, too.
Absolutely. But, I mean, isn't it great that we now live in a time when our representatives are trustworthy and aren't involved in any scandals whatsoever and don't get away with whatever they want? Isn't that amazing?
When we leave this podcast, you going back to a different universe? That's not quite the world that I know.
I fucking wish.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that, like, I thought a lot about the JFK assassination watching this of like, it's fucking 2023 and we still don't really know
Right.
what the deal was with that, and we probably never will know. Whatever truth exists is probably like word of mouth, and as people get old and people die,
Sure.
like that, whatever truth existed there is like lost.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, Scott, you got anything else?
Speaking of that car crash, to do that shoot, make it go into the water and all of that, they had to build a 60-foot long, 15-foot tall dam to get the water level high enough so the car would go under it the way they wanted.
Cool.
It took 7 days to shoot that scene, and they had to have environmentalists on set to make sure that when they were done shooting and they tore everything down, the creek was restored to its natural state, and they didn't harm the environment.
That's good.
So
That was back when...
So for all the cavalier directors being out of control,
Yeah.
they at least were in check on this.
Right. That was back when it was called conservation, and like everybody was for it.
Yeah.
But now when it's called environmentalism,
Yeah.
people don't like it.
Let's see. We talked about her claustrophobia. The actual underwater parts were filmed in a huge tank. Pretty typical, I would say, for the time.
Safe thing to do.
You might notice sometimes they don't really bring attention to it, but Sally's wearing a like lucky rabbit's foot a lot of the time in the film.
Yes.
That was a decision that Nancy Allen made, and she said it reflected her idea of who Sally was as a character, that she would probably be kind of superstitious about a lot of things.
Didn't do her a lot of good,
with
did
the
it?
life that she had. The whole like backstory on Jack, this whole like we set up a wire and all
yes.
that, and then he sweats and everything. That actually comes from an incident in a Robert Daly book, Prince of the City. Apparently, De Palma was interested in doing a film based on it, but he could never get that off the ground.
Right.
So kind of just as an homage to that novel, he worked that story in.
That's a cool sequence. I like that.
The big parade moment and the crazy like car driving scene. We talked about how awesome that was. So here's some stats on that. To make that scene, they used 11 cameras, 1,000 extras, 25 stunt drivers, vehicles on loan from the Philadelphia Fire and Police Departments, and they also used a special helicopter-mounted camera rig that was brought in from Norway just for the shoot.
Awesome. That's the $18 million budget right there.
Yeah, I guess when they gave him that budget, he was like, "Fuck it,
Yeah, I'm gonna spend
do
it.
it. Let's do it."
Go big.
After they shot all of this stuff, when they're on the way to the airport, the driver of the van that had reels of footage of the parade sequence, allegedly he stopped at a Dunkin' Donuts, got out, went inside, left the van unattended. The van got stolen. And the footage was never seen again. So there's actually more footage of this whole big parade scene, but they had to just like nix a lot of it and shoot some extra bits and use $750,000 more to get it done.
Wow.
Big L on that guy, but you know, it's what it is. Let's see. I already talked about Tarantino being in love with this. That's good.
I mean, say what you will about Tarantino, he does have good taste in
He
movies.
does have good taste. Yes, he does. Oh, the shower scene at the beginning. Our actress with the bad scream.
But nice tits.
Yes. That's Missy Cleveland, and she was Playmate of the Month in April 1979 in Playboy.
Awesome. Yeah. She's very attractive.
The original title of this film was Personal Effects.
Ah, yes.
That was what Brian De Palma wanted to call it. I think the studio suggested Blowout.
That's a better title. It's a stronger title.
I think so.
Personal Effects sounds like a romance drama or something like that.
Yeah. Though I do get the idea behind it.
Sure.
Yeah. Burke. Talk about him as a character a little bit. His kind of design and mannerisms and stuff was modeled after G. Gordon Liddy, the leader of the White House plumbers that were central players, and you mentioned it earlier, the Watergate scandal.
Yeah.
30th Street Station. That's the train station where Burke murders the hooker.
Right.
And they begin the whole like fake meeting with Sally. That is used also as a location in the murder scene from Witness in 1985.
Oh, yeah. Another great little movie.
Yeah. A lot of nice little connecting pieces in here. Apparently this the whole like using Sally's death scream in the film is kind of like a similar thing to this urban legend that's always existed about a song Love Roller Coaster by the Ohio Players.
Yeah. Yeah.
I meant to pull the story on that.
There's supposed to be a scream that was an actual person either being murdered or dying in some way.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's so many great urban legends about rock and roll and albums and stuff like that. That's one of them.
Despite it doing poorly, it did review well. A lot of critics had very positive stuff to say about it.
As they should.
In The New Yorker, Pauline Kael gave the film one of her unconditional raves and just totally praised it start to finish. Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars. He went on to say it is inhabited by a real cinematic intelligence. The audience isn't condescended to. We share the excitement of figuring out how things develop and unfold. When so often the movies only need us as a passive witness. And his buddy, Siskel, also recommended it and gave it his highest praise.
Nice.
And they put it on a list of their buried treasures in one of the 1986 episodes of At the Movies. If we go modern times more, look at Rotten Tomatoes, it's got an 87% based on critical reviews.
Pretty strong.
Pretty strong. But yeah, the box office was the kind of nail in the coffin that just
audiences were not
destroyed it.
In for a downer ending in the early 80s. Like movies like The Thing, you know, just underperformed.
And it's funny because like almost all of those have been critically reappraised.
Right. They get reevaluated and they're like, fuck, this is a classic. But people wanted feel good shit. I guess it was that whole post disco. Everyone's still high on coke.
Yeah.
Reaganomics. I don't know.
Reaganomics, man. So where were we today with this film? So right, Tarantino praises it. He's kind of elevated it some.
Yeah.
We talked about the Criterion release that happened in April 2011. That was kind of the big moment where really a lot of people were coming back to this and being like, "Oh no, this is like special."
Yeah.
So in more current times, 2023, Time Magazine put Blowout as part of their 100 best movies in the past 10 decades.
Wow. I mean, I agree with it, but I'm kind of surprised.
And they kind of had a little capsule comment on each film. And for this one, they said, a film filled with mistrust, one where the ghosts of the Chappaquiddick and Zapruder films lurk in the corners.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Yeah.
Whew. Well, I've seen this before, so I guess I should talk about it first.
Please do.
My reactions and evaluations and such.
I think everyone knows where we're both going to fall on this one.
Yeah. As I say, it's been a while since I've seen this, and I'm not even sure where I first heard about it. I'm sure I had some obnoxious, nerdy film book or something back in the day, and they talked about it. And
let me ask you this before we bleed our hearts on this.
Yeah.
What's your favorite De Palma?
I was going to ask you the same thing.
Okay, well, let's do that real quick.
All right. There's a lot to choose from.
God, yes.
I mean, he's made a lot of great fucking movies, and I hadn't even seen them all yet. There's some I need to go back and watch. Dude, it's a hard choice. And of course, his earlier output is better than his latter stuff, but he still has some really good movies later on. As fun as Phantom of the Paradise is, I gotta go with The Untouchables.
Okay.
I fucking love The Untouchables.
It is a good one.
Even as a teenager, I had a poster of it on my wall. You know.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you?
So I'm kind of like you. A part of me wants to make it be Phantom of the Paradise really bad, but I don't think I can.
And this movie's a contender too.
After watching it, this one's definitely a contender, but I gotta go with Dress to Kill.
Nice. Yeah.
I fucking love that movie.
That's a good pick too. Yeah.
When I started collecting Criterion, that was one of the first ones I bought.
Nice. Yeah. That's a great flick. Very Giallo-esque.
All around classic. It's probably his most Giallo-esque of them all. Cool. Now you may continue.
All right. Well, back in the day when I saw it, I really loved it. It's the sort of thing I told people to watch. And here I am again today telling more people to watch it. And it's held up great. I love movies like this. I miss movies like this.
God, yeah.
When I talk about old movies and how much I love them in like the 80s and 70s and stuff like that, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You just...
Like what today in like the last year or two has come out that's been something like this.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they just literally do not make them like this anymore. And all of those shots of all the old equipment only adds to it. And I'm not saying things are better because... I'm not saying like right now older equipment is better necessarily. Because it's amazing the things you can do now so cheaply.
I mean, you can look at something like, what is it, that movie Unsane? They shot that all on an iPhone.
Yeah.
And it looks great.
Oh, that Garrett guy who invented the Steadicam, there's this cool little featurette on the Blu-ray with him. And he's showing the original Steadicam he made, which is this huge, monstrous thing, but was a complete innovation and freed the cameraman. And he talks about how he's showing examples of how they got smaller and smaller to where you had this little tiny iPhone gimbal that does the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's probably like $100 or if that on Amazon.
I mean, if you have a current modern cell phone, you can just go buy like a gimbal attachment and get the same kind of shit now.
Right. It's amazing. But this movie is just so well made. It's so crafted. You know, like the scene I keep talking about where they don't hit the audience over the head. You're going to figure it out. It trusts you.
Yeah.
I just feel like movies today do not trust their audience.
No.
And a lot of that does have to do with being more international. They want to appeal to everyone. And, you know, people can't always read what's on the screen and stuff like that if it's playing in China or whatever. So sometimes you have to be a bit more obvious. But, man, I just miss that type of movie. I miss that slow, deliberate, where every shot is planned and storyboarded and executed. And there's also a great interview with Noah Baumbach talking to De Palma on the Blu-ray. And De Palma's talking about how boring over-the-shoulder shots are, you know?
Yeah.
And he's always, you know, do a tour when you can, you know, just have the people in the same space actually acting off each other. And we don't get that anymore. How often do you see that? It's always just
back and forth.
Yeah, it's just the boring cut back and forth with people over the shoulder.
Shoot
crap.
it with neither person needs to be there because you could just film it all separate.
Right. So dull.
It's kind of like this podcast. The reason we push to still do it in person, it's like there's a different energy, us sitting here together, doing it
exactly,
than when we're both on our computer.
Right. And he even bemoaned what he calls basically a crutch. It's just boring. It's like the over the head, like the God shot where you're following someone in a car going to the destination at the beginning of the movie. And it's like, how boring is that? You know, we don't need that. Just start where the movie starts, you know?
I'll allow one movie to do that, and that movie is Blair Witch 2: Book of Shadows.
I thought you were going to say The Shining.
When you're sweeping over the Black Woods, and
it's a nice shot. I like I agree with what you're saying.
But yeah, The Shining too.
I mean, if any one movie needs it, it's The Shining.
Yes.
But of course, every movie has it because now you have drones.
Yeah, it's so easy.
People think it gives you production value or something. You're like, ooh, look at this cool aerial shot. When it means nothing now. You know, do something new. Do something else. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, everything holds up in this movie. Travolta's performance is great. Like, if you think Travolta's just kind of a hacky has-been,
not in this movie.
No, he's got a lot of good, solid stuff. There's a reason why Tarantino cast him in Pulp Fiction, and revitalized his career.
It's almost like a Nick Cage situation, I think, where like the right director that knows how to direct him and
wrangle him and
frame it and stuff and do everything, and then when you've got the wrong person or he's just left to his own devices,
right. This movie has a great story, has a great ending, has a through line. You know, it has. It's basically a screenwriting and filmmaking class. Is this movie, and I love it. I'm giving it 5 stars.
Ooh. Ding 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 ding.
I was gonna go with like 4.5, but then I'm like, why? The only gripe I have, and I mentioned it, is that I'm not sure that extended sequence where he kills the sex worker in the train station near the end is needed. But I also like that look into Burke's character. Yeah. You know? So.
It's also a fun scene.
Right. And the movie isn't over long. It's not like you're bored by the end. It's under 2 hours. You know? So anyway, that is my take. What do you think, sir?
Well. Okay. Well, I guess the first thing I want to say is... I just fucking love this film, like start to finish, man. Like God, it barely started, and I was like, I'm already into this. It's so good.
Right on.
I love the like sad and somber tone of it. The fact that like Jack's been through some shit, Sally's been through some shit. Like I said, they're kind of victims of consequence to get wrapped up in all of this, and just the breakdown of their struggle, and that it just everything conspires against them. And I loved all the Gialli references and kind of the mood and the tone, especially the score. I think the score is just like banging in this film. Like
good score.
Again, like I said, the low to the ground synthy pieces, but then we get the big sweeping moments when you really need them. Like a lot of that scene where Sally dies, the music like builds that so well, and you just feel it in your heart and your soul, man, when it happens. I don't know that it was a connecting piece at all, but I just wanted to mention it. I get kind of like a Cronenberg-y vibe when I watch this film. It kind of makes me think of, you got that somber atmosphere, kind of like a Dead Zone going on.
That pervading sense of dread.
The pervading sense of dread that you just know nothing's going to be right. And you've got like the political conspiracy thriller angle that you get a little bit in Dead Zone, but then you kind of have going on in like Videodrome or Scanners, where there's like these big political movements going on that kind of dwarf the characters, and they're swept up along in what's going on.
People with a philosophy.
Yes, as you might say. I love, again, like the pacing. It's so quick, but it hits every beat. You're not missing anything. You're not knowing what's going on. Like I said, there's good economic storytelling where like they'll just mention it in passing, or
show,
just
don't tell.
In the way you see Jack interact with someone, like when he's talking to the police detective, you learn so much about his character and who he is, and how even the other people in the world see him.
Yeah.
And they don't just have to sit there and be like, well, he was this really great Marine, and then he was a super skilled police officer that was renowned for exposing corruption, and da-da-da-da. Again, it's like the cocktail of Brian De Palma themes and tropes, and I love that that's in there, that it kind of explores, I think, the power of guilt a little bit. Like both Jack and Sally, their motivations kind of lean back on the guilt for what they've done. that he regrets that he like was so focused on exposing the truth and focused on that he maybe didn't cover every ground with that wiretap situation. He kind of blames himself for it.
Right.
Puts that on himself. I think that's also why he works where he does, because it's like he doesn't want to let himself, like you said, he wants to be out of play, kind of like, like he feels like he isn't allowed to like do anything meaningful now that that happened. And then we see it more as the film goes, but then Sally gets into like, you know, I have exploited these people, and it was wrong of me to like do this whole blackmailing scheme, and maybe this one time I want to make it right and actually let the truth shine through. And
that's what you get for doing the right thing.
Try to do the right thing.
Yep. Nope.
You get, you know, the theme of voyeurism, much more in some of his other films, but here, like, Jack has that vibe, a little bit of a peeping Tom.
Sure.
Where he's kind of poking his nose into everything.
And the whole co-ed frenzy at the beginning is all about voyeurism.
Oh, yeah. The focus on, like, historical events, the thing with Ted Kennedy that you talked about, the JFK assassination, references to Blow Up and the conversation, the Watergate scandal, just like it's pulling on so many like big films and things that have happened in our history and our culture and synthesizing that in a neat way. And again, like I said, the ending is perfect. It's so bleak, but it's the ending it needed to have and it had to have.
Yep.
And then maybe like I kept thinking about how people say this is neo-noir, and then maybe that is the noir angle coming in, because you do have, again, like the woman in trouble, and you've got your person that's seeking the truth, and then kind of the angle of that is in the end, like no one's for the better.
Yeah.
By the time everything is said and done.
An argument can be made.
So yeah, God, I fucking love it. 5 stars.
Woot!
Woo! There we go. All the love for this movie.
I had a feeling this was a sure thing for you. I said to myself, if he comes back and doesn't like this movie, he is just fucking with me at this point.
Jason, I just thought it insisted upon itself. You know?
There weren't enough frames in that magazine to make the film he made.
And it's just, he's totally out of touch with reality. Shallow and pedantic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you dug it. I knew you would. I've had this one in my back pocket since we started the podcast.
Nice.
I'm like, we're going to get to this one eventually.
I'm glad it was now.
Awesome.
And I'm going to say too, like if you've never seen this film and you somehow have listened to us all the way to this point, like,
somehow
you need to see this movie. And I looked, I think it's on Hulu right now. I saw, and
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2 other places. Like I'm going to say it's worth your $20 if you live in the U.S. and you can get out to a Barnes and Noble or even their website, I think, or what Amazon's like price matching them right now too. So
yep,
worth owning if you're a collector.
Absolutely.
Worth seeing if you're any level of a film fan and you haven't seen it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Absolute double 5-star genre exposure certified. Put that sticker on the next release.
Awesome. That makes me happy.
Yeah. And I was like just so fucking excited after I watched it because I was like, God, this is such a good movie.
Awesome.
Cool.
Love it.
But we've got one more to go.
One more movie about making movies?
Yes, because there's so many angles you can take on it, right? Like this one was all about sound design and the way audio can interfere with things and matter. And we've done with the first one kind of more, I guess, of the like broad scope level of just how you make a movie.
Sure. Yeah, maybe inspiration and subject matter.
Yeah. And there's so many other ways we could go. We kind of just made a list of some prominent ones we thought would be fun and just narrowed that down.
And it's a hard list to choose from.
Very hard. Had to let go of a lot of darlings. Ones that we may do in the future when another topic comes up, or if we do this one again, because God, we could do 3 more and I still wouldn't get them all out that I want to talk about. But we've been more modern, and then you took us back to the 80s.
As I often do.
As you often do. And we've kind of been talking a lot about 90s horror lately. Mm-hmm. And we kind of decided between us here, just before we started recording, that maybe before we close out the year, we should actually talk about a 90s horror film. And there's a few we could have picked, I believe, but...
Well, we did have Idle Hands. That was a 90s horror film.
Yeah. Right at the end, tail end.
Right.
It definitely has some 2000s-ness
it does.
to its style. So we're going to go like smack dab to the middle here, 94, and talk about... And this is another departure from us, too, because we're going with a franchise. We're going to talk about Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Yeah, we are.
The kind of final film of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Yeah, this is... I haven't seen this movie in a long time.
So I will share this before we go to that episode in existence. This is a film that I go back and forth on. Sometimes I watch it and I think it is brilliant and one of his best and I love it. And then sometimes I watch it and I'm like, I would put this at like near the bottom for the franchise.
Right.
And just, every few years I feel like my feelings kind of flip-flop on it. Mm-hmm. And maybe we can explore that when we discuss it.
I'm very anxious to reevaluate it. Fun fact, this came out the year I graduated high school.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I was in the theater for it too. I was there.
We'll get into all that and more, and I'm sure sharing a little bit of love for Wes Craven, because I know we were both fond of him, and for the Elm Street franchise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fun way to close out the year with a little franchise horror.
Little meta horror.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, that brings us to the end of another fun episode. We're almost to the end of the year as well, which is fun. Who knows what other antics will ensue after that. But for the time being, you can hit us up on Facebook. You can hit us up on X. You can hit us up on Instagram. You can email us at genreexposure@gmail.com.
You can smash that like button and ring that bell.
You can. We have a YouTube channel. We don't really fuss with it much. It's just the copies of the episodes being dumped on there. But you too could experience that if you wished.
You could. Who knows? Maybe someday you'll get some video content.
Someday, one day, perhaps. So as I do say, we really have faces made for podcasting. So.
Yes.
Send us your movie recommendations. What if you were gonna watch a movie about making movies? What's your one that's like, yes, this is the one that should be watched?
Yeah. What's your favorite Brian De Palma movie?
Yeah.
If you don't have one, start watching them.
And for next time, Wes Craven, where you at on that? I'm sure we're gonna ask each other that next time. So I'm gonna have to.
I'll tell you right now, it's cursed. Obviously.
You know what? I'm gonna say not as bad as people think on Cursed.
I hadn't seen it.
Okay.
I saw the trailer and some scenes, and I was like, "This isn't for me."
Okay. Sure.
But maybe I should go back and watch it. That and See No Evil. I never watched that one either.
I never watched that one.
That was his last one, wasn't it?
Yeah. Unfortunately. Well, all that being said, you have been listening to Genre Exposure.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.